Okay, I think it's time for us to begin here. A few announcements to share with you. Uh, Want to remind you that this coming Sunday begins our 9:15 a.m. Bible classes instead of being 9:30. So just remember that that allows us 15 more minutes between class and worship to kind of have fellowship and to be sure and welcome guests, new people that come along. So be aware of that. Next Wednesday, there is a meal at 5:30 p.m. in the Family Life Center. The meal is nachos. Members bring toppings, sides, and desserts, and cheese will be provided. Um, Also, just a note for teachers and helpers, there's a reminder to turn in your consent forms for background checks. That becomes one of those necessary things in our world now for insurance purposes and such as that. So just be mindful of that. There will also be a baby shower for Brittany Ritzendaler on Saturday, February the 7th at 2 p.m. in the fellowship room. She is having twins, a boy and a girl. And so remember that. That'll be February the 7th at 2 p.m. Want to express our sympathy to Russell Stanfield's family. His cousin's grandson, Eli, passed away. If you remember, we prayed for him because he had meningitis. And so pray for that family. Also, Paul Hildebrand, that's Mike Hildebrand's cousin, passed away. And his service will be this week, Saturday. Okay. Okay. So, and then the loss of Royce, which is Connie Doherty's uncle. And I sent a message to her, but I didn't look back at my phone. Do you know where that service is? Does anybody know where he lived? Okay, we'll find that out. Larry McMillan had sinus surgery today. Haven't been able to talk to Sue to find out how that went. Marianne Litton has been placed on hospice care. Continue to remember Ralph's sister, Bonnie. Pam Stanfield's mom is recovering from surgery and 6 weeks of IV antibiotics. You'll remember that they had to take the pacemaker out. But my understanding was they weren't able to take the wires out. So that still allows things to be susceptible to infection. So also Briley Waddell, which is the Sneed's, Briley Sneed, is that right? How is, okay, okay, that's what it is instead of, okay. She is in ICU, I suppose, still? Okay, all right. Also, Michelle Evans went to the doctor yesterday. She has to be 2 more months on the trach. They want to be sure that the esophagus is healed. So that's still an extended time. I did talk to Michelle today. She still has Jim Evans' sense of humor, which is pretty bad, but I'm joking. But she thanks everyone for the prayers that have been offered on her behalf. All right. Anyone else that we missed? Okay, let's pray. Father, it is a privilege to come to you and to come into your presence. And just on behalf of our loved ones and those who are part of the congregation here and part of our community, and just any connection that we have with them. And just pray that you be with those who've had recent surgeries, those who are recovering from surgery, and those who
If you get lucky, mine will go dead. So I see you back there, Grant. No. Yeah, just dismiss the class. We'll just go from there and go. And Wanda, don't you say a word, because I know you remember back in the day when I used to lead singing, huh? I stood up there. I'll put it like I'm not sure I led singing. Oh, I do want to make mention this evening as well that to fill out, make sure that you fill out one of the response forms that you'll find in the foyer regarding Mike Schrader becoming an elder. Blue box out there. Put your form in there, and we'll take care of that. So please remember that was as well. And as you when you learn things, life itself, and when talking about having twins, a boy and a girl, it's amazing because that means there was two eggs, and that doesn't happen very often, when they both get and they both attach and so on in that regard. So that's one of those things of life. It's just amazing. But I guess even more amazing than Roger is that when that single one produces two, makes two zygotes. I mean, it's just, and it's got to be alive from the very beginning, because to me, you have two half cells that form a single cell. Now then, what kind of cells do skin cells reproduce? Only skin cells. They don't make anything else. Brain cells only produce brain cells. But that single cell on conception produces every type of cell that we find in our body. That is amazing. That one, and I always ask people who say that they're atheists, I ask them that one question. Never had a response, no argument, on that regard. So life itself, boy and a girl, yeah, that'll be fun. All right, we're in Acts chapter 10. So if you will, let's open our Bibles there, because first thing we're going to do is we're going to read this. As you look at this chapter, well, the book of Acts, and we understand that the book of Acts, as we look at it, is how the church began and things like that. To me, this chapter's special, though. Why would I think that this chapter is special?
Are you asking?
Yes.
Well, because this is when Peter gets the vision from God about the Gentiles, and he goes, unlocks the door.
Okay, let's put it in a different way. This is when I received the word. Gentiles. But when you put it in a personal way, without this, then and it's like, so this chapter is good news. This chapter should be something special for all of us in that regard, because of what it brings to us. Unless, of course, you're Jewish descent, which I'm not. So this is where it comes from. This is the good news that we receive, that not only came from the Jews, but now has come to us. And so let's look at this. Now there was a man, and I'm just going to read here to start with, because you're never wrong when you read the Word of God. Now there was a man at Caesarea named Cornelius, a centurion of what was called the Italian cohort. Now then, I looked this up and kind of looked at this a little bit. The Italian cohort was all men from Italy. This Italian cohort, these men were all volunteers from Italy. They were part of the Roman Empire and some of the elite of their fighting force. All right, if you will, these guys were like Army Rangers. If be a good way to look at them in our clientele today. He was a centurion. He had 100 of them. But this cohort that was sent there could be as from 600 to 1,000 men. So they sent 600 to 1,000 men to Caesarea from Italy to protect the governor there and to take care of anything. This is during the Roman Empire, to take care of anything that in the region. This is in Samaria, so they're taking care of this whole region through there with 1,000 troops. Maximum of 1,000. Don't know if there was 600, but it said that cohort was anywhere from 600 to 1,000. Cornelius is one of the captains, if you will, in this. And of course, being a centurion, how many men are under his control? About 100. And since he is in Caesarea, we understand from that he's got the job of keeping the governor safe. So this is his primary responsibility. So you can see that this is just not some ordinary guy out here. And that's going to lend into this when we really think about this whole idea. And it says that he was a devout man and one who feared God with all his household and gave many alms to the Jewish people and prayed to God continually. About the 9th hour of the day, he clearly saw in a vision an angel of God who had just come in and said to him, Cornelius. And fixing his gaze on the angel, on him, and being much alarmed, he said, What is it, Lord? And the angel said to him, Your prayers and alms have ascended as a memorial before God. Now dispatch some men to Joppa and send for a man named Simon, who is also called Peter. He is staying with a tanner named Simon, whose house is by the sea. When the angel who was speaking to him had left, he summoned 2 of his servants and a devout soldier of those who were his personal attendants. And after he had explained everything to them, he sent them to Joppa. Now then, to find out who Cornelius is in regard to this, my question is, and I have absolutely no answer, how did he become a devout, God-fearing man? That's especially being when we think about the Roman culture and what he had been exposed to in Italy and in Rome and what they were teaching is, how did he become a devout? And that's somebody that is specifically and very, how does it read? A person deeply devoted to a religion or cause, characterized by piety, sincerity, earnestness in their actions or beliefs. He was devout. Where did that come from? I don't know, but that just...
Did he? I mean, he had to hear the word somewhere, right?
He had to have heard, but what word? It had to have been the Jewish teachings from where they were there.
But also,
So-
the Christian teachings as well. Maybe when they were in prison, maybe when they were out teaching
And see,
temple.
and that's one of those things where I don't know because
Don't know.
of what, because it talks about just the Jews in that regard and how his own, so I don't know. But it's just one of those things that we look at and it's like, how did this gentleman get there? Now, the other part about that is going back to what I said a while ago about who he is. Think about a soldier and to get that that's kind of different too, because in this regard, he would have had I would have had a little bit of a superiority complex in that regard, and I come in here to help keep you heathens under control, right? I mean, and when we look at history sometimes, it's kind of the way we're taught about that, is that they went into those areas. So
Well, he is a soldier, so I'm gonna assume, we're making assumptions here,
Yeah.
so he's traveling around and dealing with the people. So he's seeing the Christians and he's seeing the examples that they're setting. And
that there
so-
is something different in their lifestyle.
Yeah.
In their, yeah.
Philip went to Caesarea after he baptized the youth.
Yes. Now then, and when we look at this, and when we look at this area, the thing that if you, okay, we all kind of know where Jerusalem is. So if we look at this map right here, okay, for just a minute. Here's the Mediterranean over here, and here's Jerusalem sitting over here close, and Joppa's over here. And then we're going to go about almost 40 miles straight north at the coast. Jaffa, as it was later called, is a coastal and it's a seaport. All right? So Simon, Peter, he's not in Jerusalem, which I thought was kind of, when you think about it, it's like, wait a minute, I thought that the apostles stayed in Jerusalem and they stayed, and here he is over here at Joppa on the seacoast. Well, what's he doing there? And it's about 35 to 40 miles from Jerusalem to Joppa, and then it's about that same distance straight up the coast, straight north at the coast to Caesarea. So, all this time, we're thinking that the apostles are staying in Jerusalem, but here's Peter, and he's somewhere else right now. And once again, going back to what was said a while ago about the apostles' teaching, well, did they have to go? So I'm assuming.
They also, we have examples where,
Yes.
while God said to the Jewish people, marry within the Jewish clans, they married outside. They sometimes made, so it could be some of these soldiers married some Jewish wives.
Could be, and
It could
like,
be introduced.
Also, it wasn't unusual for people to be converted to Judaism.
right.
That went
That,
on.
and that was what I had kind of picked up on too, that
And he might have been sent to the area that he was sent to, because
very well could in that regard.
Timothy's father was too, right, very good Jew.
Yeah. So there's lots of questions that we can have about this, but it makes for a very interesting story. We don't know all the details on it, but it makes for a very interesting story when you start looking at this in this regard. Okay? And so he feared God. Not only he, but I think that this speaks very highly of him as well. Who else besides himself? And it's not just his family. What about his troop? He's got his soldiers, the men that he's in charge of, that when we'll see this, that these men, he has also influenced them. Now, this was not by order, because we know to be godly, you can't just order somebody to do that. So these men saw what effect it had on him and how he treated, and so they too were influenced. This guy's something. I don't know how else to say it. This guy is something. And then when it says that, he gave many alms to the Jewish people and prayed to God continually. He knew this God. How? We're not sure, but he knew God. Not some pagan, as so many of the people, but he knew God in this regard. And his giving, his heart, his liberality was something else. And it came up to God. I'm going to be real truthful. I'd really like to know what all he did do. That it came up before God in such a way that God says, ooh, this man's special. I want this man. Think about that for just a moment. How did God, now God's not a respecter of persons in this regards, but there's something about this man Cornelius that God looks at and says, this man is one of mine. So about the 9th hour, which is about what time during the day? I think about 3 p.m., isn't it? 3 o'clock in the afternoon is what we usually say. It says that he clearly saw in a vision an angel of God who had just come in and said to him, Cornelius. This is not like some vision at night and I see, like the story my granddad used to tell about the guy that came in and told his wife, it's a hot day, it's in time of the year when they're supposed to be, gathering crops and so on. And he said, honey, He said, I just saw a sign, and God just put a sign in the sky. It said GPC. And so I'm quitting and going to preach Christ. And she looked at him and she said, you don't know. She said, no, God put that up there and says, go pick cotton. Now get back out there. So, so when we think that we're seeing visions today, I question people. All right? But with Cornelius, this was very plain. Brightest part of the day, and this angel, and he sees this angel before him. Angel calls his name. And then it says that, which you would training, military training, it says, and I like the way that it's worded, and he fixes his gaze on him. This is not, believe me, Cornelius' military training is now kicking in, because he's looking at this and it's like, no, I have not had anything to drink. I'm not, what? And so he is locked in on this. And so he looks at him and says, and being much alarmed. Here's a warrior, and he's scared. He's alarmed. I'm not saying scared in that regard, but he is alarmed because this is something he doesn't know how to combat. Because this angel, and what does the angel look like? I have no idea, but he recognizes it as an angel, as it from God. And the angel says to him, your prayers and your alms have ascended as a memorial before God. Man, what a blessing. What greater statement could be said about we as human beings, that our life came before God as a memorial. And so the angel tells him, now dispatch some men to Joppa and send for a man named Simon, who is also called Peter. Interesting that Simon is also staying with a guy named Simon, who is a tanner, but lives down by the sea, which goes along with being at a seaport city. And when the angel who was speaking to him had left, how long did he wait and talk this over? He went, now, Paul. Oh, how many times have I been so guilty of procrastinating when I should have done it right then? How many times have I? I can't count all of them. And you being human, I know you got the same thing. So, once again, we see in Cornelius another trait, a special trait. Maybe this is part of his military training where, no, you don't wait. This is what the angel said to do. This is what my commandment was. I'm going to carry out my command to do. And so here we go. So he calls two of his servants, and a devout soldier. Okay, so this is like sending a Green Beret with the two guys to make sure that they get there. All right, he's going to take care of them. He's making sure these two guys get to Simon, who is called Peter, because this is what the angel has told him to do. And so he brings them in, and after he explained everything to them, he relates what he has just seen to them. And so, did these guys argue with him or anything? Does that not speak highly for what we were talking about a while ago, how that he had influenced not only his entire family, but all of his servants and his troops that he was in charge of? And so he explains it to them and he sends them. And so on the next day, as they were on their way, and this is where we stopped reading, so let's read this next part right here. Any comments before we move on to that? Yes, sir.
Before we get too far, now would be a good time. Whenever you see him describing him, verse 2, Cornelius, he's a devout man. He fears God. He gave many alms to the Jewish people, and he prayed to God continually. But now when we get over to 11:14, it gives a little bit more detail. It says, when Peter is recounting what had happened, he's telling about the angel and what the angel had told Cornelius. He gives a little more detail. The angel, having spoken to Cornelius, and he will speak words to you by which you will be saved, you and all your household. He was devout, he feared God, he gave alms, he prayed, but he was not saved.
Thank you.
You can do all those things and still be lost, and I don't care if it's 20 years, 20 days, 20 years, or 2,000 years after Christ's resurrection. Same holds true. You can be all four of those things and still be lost.
Exactly. And thank you, Anthony, because today, and I hate to say it, brothers and sisters, but there are several people probably sitting in here today saying, well, he's going to heaven. He's a good man. Look at all the things he does. You think God's sitting in, and God's not gonna. We're trying to, and I got to go back to what Scripture says. He wasn't saved. If he had been saved, why would the angel come to him? He's not. Yeah, he's a great man.
If he was all those things, maybe he had not heard the gospel yet. Otherwise, he would have obeyed.
Exactly. And that's what they see that, and that's what I'm thinking is that what he has heard makes sense because he knows history as well. And he can study the history of what he's learned through this Jewish religion. And he sees that, but he hasn't received Christianity because he doesn't. If the angel, as you said, when Peter repeats this, tells him, he'll tell you what you do to be saved. He's not saved. He's a good man. He's a godly man. But he's not saved.
The Jews were God's people, but they weren't saved either.
Exactly.
And unless they accept Christ today, same condition.
That's exactly right. So salvation only comes through Jesus Christ. Had he just believed in Jesus, would that have been enough? And the answer to that is no. Same thing. Same thing. Thank you, Anthony. That's a good place to bring that in right there too. So on the next day, as they were on their way, now you've got to remember, we said that this is about 35 to 40 miles that they're traveling. It's after 3 o'clock in the afternoon when he sends them out. So they spend the night on the road somewhere. Well, then the next day, they're coming into Joppa. And so as they're approaching the city, Peter's at the house of Simon the tanner. And he goes up on the housetop about the 6th hour to pray. The 6th hour is about noon. But he became hungry and was desiring to eat. But while they were making preparations, he fell into a trance. Now, what Peter is experiencing is a little bit different than what Cornelius did because the angel came to Cornelius here. Peter falls into a trance so that he sees things. And he saw the sky opened up and an object like a great sheet coming down, lowered by 4 corners to the ground. And there were in it all kinds of 4-footed animals and crawling creatures in the earth and birds of the air. All right? When was the last time you saw something like this? At the ark. Now you think about what happened at the ark, and here I got this big sheet, and I let this thing down, this thing comes down, flattens out on the ground. And first of all, that anything didn't crawl off, nothing flew off, you know that's something else. But he looks at it, and it's all the animals. Haven't seen anything like that since, like I said, the ark. When Noah took 2 by 2 up. And so, strange. I'm hungry. Yeah, there's some of a few of those in there looking pretty good to me right now. And a voice came to him. Now then, I've heard this, but the way I read this, please listen and let me try to explain, because I've heard it explained in other ways. A voice came to him, and the voice says to him, "Get up, Peter, kill and eat." Okay, so the voice says this, and then Peter says, "By no means, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that was unholy and unclean." So he answers, and a voice came to him a second time. So kill and eat, not me. Voice says again, what God has cleansed, no man, no longer consider unholy. All right, so there's the conversation. Eat, no, don't call it unholy. This happens 3 times. How many times did Peter deny Christ? How many times did Christ ask Peter, "Do you love me?" How many times does this voice say, "Kill and eat"? And how many times does it tell him, "Don't call anything unholy or unclean"? Something about 3 for Peter, isn't there, in this regard? So the voice asks him 3 different times. Peter stays with his answer, no. But the voice then plants this seed that Peter can't figure out. And what is it? Don't you call anything that I have made unholy or unclean. And 2 days later, he had bacon. No, and the world changed. No.
Verse 28.
Huh?
Verse 28 is the answer. I always, sometimes like Anthony spoke about this, people get caught up on that type thing. And then you go through, I always go to verse 28 when I make reference to that because it gives explanation.
Yes. And we understand what is going on. But if you could just take that and, like the guy said, you can take anything, you can prove anything with the Bible. And the guy asked him, said, "Well, prove it's against God's will to cut wood." He said, "What God has joined together, let no man put asunder." So, splitting wood's wrong if you take the Bible out of context. So it goes back to putting a story together in this regard. And so, and this happened 3 times, and immediately then the object was taken up into the sky. Now, while Peter was greatly perplexed in his mind as to what the vision which he had seen might be, behold, the men who had been sent by Cornelius, having asked directions for Simon's house, appeared at the gate, and calling out, they were asking whether Simon, who was also called Peter, was staying there. Now then, from what we know about what Paul had been doing, you see these 2 individuals, and then you see this soldier at the gate, and they're asking for Simon Peter. What do you think the people in the house were thinking?
Yeah, be careful.
Yeah, we're not opening the gate. Didn't hear you because of what has been done to the church. And so this continues. The men at the gate don't give up, which also then brings about the question of, why are they so persistent on this? And while Peter was reflecting on the vision, now we're going to look and see how the Spirit works differently right here. This is in this chapter. It's interesting how the Spirit is talked about. So we're going to take a look at this. So what does the Spirit do right now? The Spirit says to him, "Behold, there are 3 men looking for you. But get up, go downstairs, and accompany them without misgivings, for I have sent them myself." So the Spirit comes down and tells Peter, "I've sent these 3 people. You're going to go with them." Huh?
These 3 Gentiles.
Yes. And that's where Peter then probably gets a little bit of it's like, wait a minute, these 3 guys are Gentiles. We know what, and like I said, in the back of his mind, he's got to, but what does Peter do? He goes. going back to what we said a while ago, how many times do we hesitate when we should go? So Peter goes downstairs. But get up, go downstairs and accompany them, all right? Behold, I am the one. And so Peter goes downstairs, sees the men, and he says, behold, I am the one you're looking for. And what is the reason for which you have come? So Peter asked them, because he's not sure. What did the Spirit tell him? Go. I've sent 3 men, go. Go. So Peter doesn't know. And so they said, Cornelius, a centurion, a righteous and God-fearing man, well spoken of by the entire nation of the Jews, was divinely directed by a holy angel to send for you to come to his house and hear a message from you. So he invited them in and gave them lodging. So they had been on the road. They left in the afternoon, spent the night on the road, got there the next day. It's after lunch, we know, because it was, and so they spend the night there. What was said in the evening hours, I don't know, but I'm sure that they repeated what Cornelius had told them to say. Peter's trying to figure this out. Does he know everything yet? And the answer to that would be simply no, he doesn't. And so what happens? On the next day then, he got up and went away with them. But he also then, and some of the brethren from Joppa accompanied him. Why? Anybody ask that question?
Safety in numbers.
Safety in numbers, see what's going to happen. Exactly what is this? Because as Anthony pointed out a while ago, wait a minute, these are Gentiles. They want this Jew, so what's he going to do? Well, these other guys say, hey, what about if we tag along, see where this goes? Once again, in numbers, that if things start to turn south, well, maybe we can do something to get him out of there, or we know people in Caesarea up there where we can get some things done. So these other people go with him. On the following day, so they leave the next morning, spend the night, then the next day, all right? So these guys have been on the road for 4 days, spend 3 nights out. And when they entered Caesarea, now Cornelius was waiting for them and had called together his relatives and close friends. It wasn't just family here. It was close friends, and also who? His servants and those men in his military unit that were, he's got everybody that he can get. And when Peter entered then, Cornelius met him and fell at his feet and worshiped him. Now then, this tells you that Cornelius has not been exposed to Christianity, doesn't it? I think going back to what Anthony had said, this would tell you that he has not experienced the Christianity, or he wouldn't have done this aspect of it. So he falls down and what does Peter do immediately? Stop. I'm just a man. Get up. No. Don't do this. Because that's wrong. I'm just a man. Jesus Christ is the man, and that's what he's going to tell him about in just a moment.
I just want to throw this out. Compare Peter's reaction to the Pope's. Just saying.
Thank you. And well stated. That everybody, he wants everybody, yeah, understand. So Peter, compared to what we see from the Pope today, big difference. And Peter gives credit where it belongs and where it is due.
But you know, up until this time, in the Old Testament, they didn't have anybody but Jews.
Exactly.
People.
Yes.
And so they've gone through this time, as Bill John the Baptist did it,
Yep.
and Christ came. And so you're still having that knowledge from the past that you're looking at as people
Right.
at this point.
And if he has gone to the synagogues, even being in the outer part, what did he see? Well, as the sacrifice and so on, they would bow down. And so he hasn't seen, and that's the reason why we go back to the idea, he hasn't seen Christianity. He's seen the Jewish religion, but he really hasn't seen Christianity.
Well, and he's seen other worship as well, other religions where they're bowing down to idols.
Right.
And they're worshiping other things, so it would not be unusual for him to, behave this way.
I could know too, Larry. It talks about him falling down and worshiping. Like I know like the Greek meaning that worship was that more out of respect? Exactly how and down to what time?
Well, okay, now then, let's take what we think, and once again, I'm using this idea of what we think Cornelius knows. Okay, and that is that what he's seen is in this, has he seen the priest? And then what people do is the priest enters in and so on and so forth. So when this angel tells him to go send for this man that he's never met, and this man shows up, what has he seen? So what does he do? And he's giving him, I mean, to me that makes sense, because now then I'm going to do what I've seen other people do in this regard. And so he bows down. Now, to worship him in that regard, how does that go? Well, what were the Jews doing when they would bow down if they were in the synagogue? And so I look at it, I try to put that together so that it makes sense instead of just being something completely foreign, that from what he has observed is what he does toward Peter. And Peter, of course, being a Jew, recognizes that and says, no. Stand up. Get up.
So, Cornelius was man,
Exactly.
military man. But he had this encounter with this angel. And so
That would get your
he
attention.
calls all of his relatives, friends, and says, hey, there's somebody coming that is sent by God to tell
And-
us some stuff.
And to have everybody there,
Yeah.
he had to have that message where,
And he was waiting for this
Yes.
time while they're over Joppa. He's just waiting for this.
we see that kind of influence in one other place too. Somebody think about that right now?
The centurion that went and said, I tell people to go here and they do this, and that, all you've got to do is say so, and my child will be. We have to stop and think. When Christ came, even with the apostles there, they did a lot of things, and word travels,
Sure.
and they go through, and they saw things that were happening that had never happened before. And they were doing it for not only just the Jews, but other people.
Now then, and also, did people bow down and worship Christ? Did they bow down to Christ? I think they did, didn't they? And Christ, because Christ was worthy of that honor and praise, Peter knew that he wasn't, because Christ died for that. So Peter, the Holy Spirit has given him some understanding that I don't think the apostles had until the Holy Spirit came. And now then he gets it, and it's like, no, you don't understand. There's only one person that's been on this earth that's worthy of bowing down in this regard in praise. But what I was thinking of in regards to what Paul was talking about right here was that all the people that he had gathered together, what about the woman at the well? She goes back into the city, and who came out with her? Everybody. Brothers and sisters, that's conviction. This man is convicted. I mean, to be able to
If I
have,
told all of you guys, hey, I saw an angel yesterday, and there's a guy coming over to my house, and you gotta be there.
I might think he was a therapist, but I'd come check you out, Paul. I mean, no.
I've been praying the whole time, too.
Oh, and there's no doubt. There's no doubt. I mean, really and truly, have you ever thought what was going through Cornelius' mind for these 4 days?
It's amazing. What an event.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, where'd that come from? How did that, what do I do? I mean, in the anticipation of does he really know what to expect? No, not really. And so it's what a story. And so Peter tells him, stand up. I too am just a man. As he talked with him, he entered and found many people assembled. Do you think that Peter might have been a little bit surprised when he walked in there, Marty? Kind of like a surprise birthday party. Whoa, what is this? Huh? Yeah, and they're all Gentiles. What about these other dudes from Joppa that had come up here with him? What do you think they're thinking? You sure we go in? You sure we want to? Yeah, you
knew really what was going on.
Yeah, you sure we want to go in this crowd? We're not, we're not supposed to.
Peter welcomed these Gentiles into their house.
Yes.
Spend the night.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute, what, you didn't even hesitate. You just didn't have these guys come in and spend the night in our house, and we're not even supposed to associate with these. And now then you walk in, and now you.
Okay, we're all doing what God told us to do. Now what?
Here, and there you go. We're all doing, even though they don't understand the rest of the story, they're all doing what God has told them to do. When we do that, does God work his plan? I just got to do my part. Quit asking, quit trying to think for God, quit trying to do just when I'm told, go. Do it. And when you do that, does God take care of the rest? Well, yeah. So then, he said to them, you yourselves know. Now here we go. Because here's where he's got to put it to them now. You yourselves know how unlawful it is for a man who is a Jew to associate with a foreigner or to visit him. I can't do this. And yet, now then, what is Peter beginning to do? The light bulb just came on, didn't it? Aha. And yet God has shown me that I should not call any man unholy or unclean. Remember the sheep with Noah's Ark in it? Is Peter beginning to figure things out? Do we have to have, and I'm going to say it this way, do we have to have blind faith sometimes? I hope so too. And when I mean blind faith, here's what I mean. My faith is not blind because I'm looking at Jesus Christ, right? But it's blind because I believe that Jesus is going to do it, but I have absolutely no understanding how this is going to happen.
Then you will know the truth.
Exactly. And that's when the truth will set us free. Is when we then totally give ourselves in faith that Jesus Christ has got this. What do you want me to do? Then go do it, Larry, and don't question anything else. Just do your part. And that is why, because of what God showed me, that no man is unholy or unclean, and that is why I came without even raising any objection when I was sent for. So I asked, for what reason you have sent for me? I've told you why I come. Well, but Peter, hadn't the other guys already told you what Cornelius had said about when he saw the angel and so on? But what's Peter trying to find out right here? You tell me the story. You tell me why you want me here. What is there that you want from me? I know you saw the angel. The angel said, send for me. But now then, because the angel showed up to you, what is it that you want from me? Okay? Angel set this up. God set this up. But what is it that you want? Cornelius said 4 days ago to this hour, I was praying in my house during the 9th hour, and behold, a man stood before me in shining garments. Little explanation of what this angel looked like, shining garments. And he said, Cornelius, your prayer has been heard and your alms have been remembered before God. Therefore, send to Joppa and invite Simon, who is also called Peter, to come to you. He is staying at the house of Simon the tanner by the sea. So I sent for you immediately, and you have been, look at the humility. I love this man. Look at his humility. And you have been kind enough to come. Now then, we are all here present before God to hear all that you have been commanded by the Lord. Wow. Cornelius understands a few things, doesn't he? To speak with this idea that what God has commanded you, he had to know something else in this regard.
Maybe, I just consider the fact that maybe his prayers are being.
I agree.
There was something in his life that was cute that he already knew that God would answer. And so I perceive that he just sees this as answers to his prayer.
And there's no doubt that in the last 4 days, he's been in continual prayer.
You know, the first time we see this account, it's worded with prayers as in plural. But this time we see it said your prayer. Almost as in this second time, there were many prayers, but one request. You know, and maybe that request was, what must I do? Because that's the answer that's going to be given to him. It will be told to you what you must do to be saved. So maybe it's many prayers with one request, and that request is, what must I do? And now he's getting the answer.
Exactly. Because this man, this angel comes and says, I'm going to send somebody else. And so what has his, and I'm going to say this, that this prayer has been a continual prayer from probably that point until the time that Peter gets there. And that's good point, Anthony, because I believe that's the prayer that he's talking about. Because what does Cornelius understand when this angel comes to him? Kind of like what Anthony said a while ago. Well, I'm a good man, but what does he figure out from the angel's visit?
I'm not right with God.
I ain't good enough. I ain't right with God. I'm not good enough. I'm not saved. Or this angel wouldn't have come and said this to me, right? Roger?
Yes.
Okay, so therefore, send to Joppa and invite Simon, who is also called. And so we went there, and you've been kind enough to come down and start. All right, instead of jumping in this last part right here, probably be better off. That'd be a good place because that's where Peter begins to preach to them. All right. So I hope that as you look at this story, one, you understand the relevance that it has for each of us, Gentiles. I hope that we also understand that, as Anthony pointed out, just because you're a good man and you do good things, you ain't good enough. It takes the blood of Jesus Christ in order for a man to be saved, or woman. And without that, and there's going to be people that stood up and said to cast out demons and did all these great works in your name. And he's going to say to them, what? Depart from me. I don't know you. Simple enough. But we've got to put the story together. And too many times we fragment things. And like I do occasionally, you pull a scripture out maybe to try to prove a point, and then you find out that you misused the scripture completely out of context in that regard. You put things back together and you keep it in the storyline that makes sense. Cornelius is following that example of making sense.
I think there's another perspective here, and it's that God had to convert Peter.
That's a good point too. He came down. Well, I'm a Christian, I got it. Oh, you ain't, sorry. He converted Peter again because why? Don't you call anything that I have made unclean. Peter had to learn a lesson, and Peter struggled with this sometimes.
And he'll have to learn this lesson again later. It's not just the first or second time. He kind of
Well,
slows, doesn't he?
Peter learns things, it seems like threes, doesn't it? So, yeah,
I think that we are too. I mean, we're slow.
there's no doubt.
We're all in the same boat paddling together, aren't we?
We're,
And there's only one oar.
all of us have, what I've heard one time described as numb areas. We look upon certain people or occupations or whatever, or lifestyle practices as that'll never happen. And the reality is, God can make it happen.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking at what I,
But do I open that door?
exactly,
Do I go when invited?
or do I wait?
Everybody's heart is different. The way they come up, how they see is what they're around them in their life. They make a choice within their life. This is not what I want to do the rest of my life. Let's got something better. And you look for something to be good in that life. And you look for God. You look for something. What is it? It's got to be God.
And, yeah,
That's what Cornelius was looking for. That's why he was the man that he was and the character that he had, is he was seeking God.
that's exactly right.
So we always go small. We always go just the limited family. God goes big, and he leaves it in the message from the very beginning. He puts it in breadcrumbs throughout the scriptures. Jesus talks about it in his ministry. They didn't get it. He talked about it. They didn't get it, but it was always God's plan that the gospel was for the entire world. And it's amazing to see it. And I agree with Mike. We still struggle today. I mean, if you know, you brought in 3 Muslim friends to worship with us, it'd probably make some of us uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Come Sunday morning, right? I mean, it shouldn't. To have them in the worship, people would be uncomfortable with that additionally.
How many times do we act like Jonah? Oh, they're not gonna listen to me. They don't
Yep.
wanna hear it.
We've got
Or they're
the
not
Jonah
worthy.
syndrome a lot more than we do
Yeah.
the idea of Cornelius. What was that, Fred?
We don't ever try, we'll never know either.
Huh?
We don't ever try, we'll never know.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. All right.